There's something else that needs to be said about social engineering. Most of us, about a minute after we first heard about the Holocaust, wondered if we were the kind of people who would commit such crimes. If we were being honest with ourselves, we said no, but then we had a sort of vague, uneasy feeling. Could we be sure? In the 1970s, Professor Philip Zimbardo conducted the Stanford prison experiment at Stanford University. He was a psychologist who wanted to see if students would torture each other if given permission. He set up a prison in the university basement, randomly assigned some students to be prisoners, and others jailed and watched. The experiment had to be ended because of the brutality of the jailers. Just ordinary students. How long did it take? 6 days. Well, guess what? You're going to get your chance to see what you're made of if you haven't already. Maybe you're one of those weak ones who's already jumped on the bandwagon of spying on your neighbour for their own good. Maybe you'll be asked to reason with a neighbour. You'll be told that you're such an important insider. Hey, the mayor will thank you. Flattery is a big manipulator. Maybe it will take just a little more to push you over the edge when your child comes home and says, Billy's mum says you're crazy if you don't support something, and she's mad that you're not going to go along with the neighbourhood. Would you go along? Maybe you'll just hide anonymously, since it would maybe cost you your job to stand up. I will leave you to consider what Rose's raised there. Good people can do really awful things given the right pressure and given the justification. Earlier in the video, I posed the question, who has really benefited from the last few years? So the common good argument, do it for the common good. Who's the common good? When I look around and I talk to people, I see that people have really struggled over the last few years, some terribly so, especially if they stood up or protested or tried to have their voice heard. Others have struggled as well. In a repeat of what we've seen in our own neighbourhoods where smaller businesses closed, yet Coles, Woolworths and Bunnings stayed open, it should be no surprise that it was the wealthiest who had the biggest bonuses from the last few years. Fortune 500, the 68th edition of their annual ranking of America's largest companies. It was a blowout year for the companies featured. Despite rising inflation, the ongoing supply chain crisis, and the second year of the COVID-19 pandemic, together the 500 corporations on this year's list generated a record $16.1 trillion in revenue and $1.8 trillion in profits. And this was published in 17th of January 2022 by Oxfam. The world's 10 richest men more than doubled their fortunes from $700 billion to $1.5 trillion. At a rate of $15,000 per second, or $1.3 billion per day, during the first 2 years of a pandemic that has seen the incomes of 99% of humanity fall and over 160 million more people forced into poverty. I will finish my lament and my attempted documentation with these 4 questions. How much are we willing to sacrifice for the authorities to purportedly keep us safe? Are we willing to sacrifice our most vulnerable? What happens to our humanity when we do this? And does it really keep us safe? You can find the welfare letters and testimonials on Community Services Speak Out, which is both on Facebook and Telegram. You can also get in touch to request these on Ostwelfare, AUSTWELFARE, at tutanato.com, TUTANOTA.com. So be kind and stay human.